Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Energy Newsbeat podcast. We are going to have an absolute fantastic day today. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group, and we are here with Matt Welch. He is the State Director for the Conservative Texans for Energy Innovation. And I mean, this is exciting. I've really enjoyed getting to meet Matt and start working with him. Matt, thank you for stopping by the podcast.
You bet, Stu. It's a pleasure to be with you and share with you what's going on in energy and electricity and a variety of clean energy endeavors across Texas that we're working on. So thanks for having us.
Oh, great. Can you explain a little bit about what Conservative Texans for Energy is, or Conservative Texas for Energy Innovation? Tell us.
Absolutely. Be happy to. So the easiest way to kind of understand where we're coming from is you take the Green New Deal and you throw it in the trash. And then you come back to the drawing table and you build a agenda that is reasonable, affordable, appropriate use of energy, electricity. And so that's where we are. We are occupying kind of the center right space in Texas for proposing, evaluating, and adopting well thought out, well intentioned, well planned policy solutions that make the free market the centerpiece of it, rather than the government telling you what kind of car you have to buy or what sort of energy source you have to have.
Oh, cool.
So we are for all of the above and a little bit of the below, because Texas is on the cusp of a geothermal breakthrough. And nice. So all of the above and a little bit of the below, that's what we're about. And as Texans have realized painfully over the last year and a half,
right,
when you put all your eggs in one basket and that basket freezes, you got frozen eggs. So it makes all the more sense to diversify your eggs. And that's what we like to talk about, is no undue reliance or inappropriate reliance on one particular energy source. And we're for not punishing an innovative source. We are for allowing a marketplace for new innovation, new technology to be deployed in Texas, and consumers have the ability and the choice and the freedom to pick which energy source they want to use, how they want to use it. And pretty soon, hopefully, Texas consumers will be making money off of those energy choices. And I think a perfect example is over the last week in Texas, we have received these nice notices from ERCOT saying, would you please conserve energy? Well, there's 25 million people in Texas, and I hope my instinct is not unusual, but I'm wondering, well, okay, I'll go turn down my thermostat to 2 degrees, but is everybody else doing that? And am I suffering and just taking it for the team while everybody else is still cool in their house? So the fact of the matter is, Texas pays industrial consumers to curtail their energy during times of stress and need. And why in the world should we not pay consumers to do the same thing? It doesn't make sense. We need to incentivize energy entrepreneurs and create a whole new mechanism for advancing our energy economy so that we reward the people who are making the sacrifices.
You know, Matt, that is cool. I have really not heard that before. And it's really an incentive, because climate hypocrisy drives me nuts.
Yeah.
When you see Al Gore and all of his buddies get in a jet, they fly all around the world, they use so much carbon and fuel, and then they come back and tell us to, ride a bicycle.
Right.
And it just infuriates me. And you're talking about the free market and incentivizing to save energy. That saves the environment.
Saves the environment, and it saves Texans from having a stressed out grid. And there's nothing wrong with putting money in the consumer's pocket either.
Exactly. Especially with 9.1 inflation yesterday.
Oh my goodness. We're in for a world of hurt. I hope folks wake up in November to the realities we're confronted with and figure out where they want to put their eggs and in whose basket.
Well, we talked about climate hypocrisy, and your stance with the conservative Texans for energy innovation is refreshing, because I've been saying for years that we need to have all forms of energy. We need to have the lowest kilowatt per hour to consumers with the least amount of impact. And we don't care what you use, nuclear, oil and gas, and everything else. Oh, by the way, if the market decides it, you're going to have oil and gas in that mix.
Absolutely. It should be part of the mix. And coal is an important part of our portfolio right now.
Right.
There are assets in Texas and the Texas thermal fleet that are still using coal, and that's okay for now.
Right.
The tipping point, at least for our organization, is when those assets no longer make financial sense.
Right.
Of course, we're still concerned about the environment, but our perspective is, why would you use that source if it is an economic albatross around ratepayers' necks? And so there we have advocated, for instance, in San Antonio, CPS's Spruce coal plant, it needs to be retired or repurposed because it is costing ratepayers way more than it's worth, and that's not right. Use the resources that you have while they make sense, but be prepared to make changes for progress and innovation down the road. Because look, life and the globe and America, it's a constantly evolving ecosystem, to borrow the left's word. We don't ride around in horses and buggies anymore. We've made the move. Some people don't like electric vehicles because I don't know, for various reasons. I mean, they have range anxiety, whatever.
Right.
And our point is, if you don't like it, don't buy it.
Right.
But don't stop some who want to buy it from buying it. And what I would say is, good luck in 25 years getting your combustion engine vehicle repaired in about 25 years, because I don't know if there'll be too many mechanics who do that anymore. But yeah, we need to think ahead in all things energy and electricity.
But we're sitting here, Matt, with the climate hypocrisy that drives me nuts, and that is they're all trying to force us to drive EVs. Average cost for an EV is what, $58,000, $60,000.
And you're getting a rebate. Some person who lays out 60 or 70 grand for an EV is not the kind of person who needs a rebate from the government.
Exactly. And then the rare earth minerals, they're only 1% of the cars, whatever the number is. And then if we try to go all EV by 2025, 2035, we don't have enough rare earth minerals.
Yep.
I mean,
the critical minerals is a huge issue across the spectrum, from energy reliability to national security, and cyber crimes and whatnot. And there are undue influences in the marketplace right now, and I'm talking about uranium supply. And so it's something we need to pay attention to. We need to explore to a greater degree, bringing more mining and exploration to the United States so that we are not overly reliant on foreign sources for those critical minerals.
How does the Texas conservative Texans help with that kind of thing?
Awareness. We spotlight projects that are potentially on the drawing board and highlight them and give them a tremendous amount of encouragement that domestically supplied critical minerals is the way to go. And so for lack of a better phrase, we provide cover for bringing that manufacturing back to the United States so that we can control our own resources. And I think a perfect example of being untethered to our ownership is the whole COVID vaccine drama that we went through when we had so many foreign countries, primarily China, having control over the supply of pharmaceuticals. It made no sense that somebody was asleep at the switch. We should not have become that dependent on so critical of a resource.
Well, you just described the whole supply chain failure. Was it? I can't remember when we went to a just-in-time inventory, worldwide just-in-time inventory, and that made everything a global interaction. And then when the Ever Given just absolutely blocked the Suez Canal, that kind of went, whoa, we got a problem. I mean, I don't think we've recovered from that
until the next one happens.
Oh, how funny.
Well, the fact is we've got to wake up to the reality that people are trying to do America harm. And there are people that are at war with us. And whether we've declared it or not, they're spying on us. They're stealing our intellectual property. They are monetizing our institutions of higher education to their benefit. They're undermining our academia, and they are acquiring ownership of traditional oil and gas and renewable energy sectors and transmission grid resources. We just need to wake up and do a better job of protecting our own future.
Oh, absolutely. And Matt, a couple of weeks ago, I think you and I were talking about there was a military base around here with a wind farm right next to it. And China had bought the wind or tried to go through and buy the wind farm. I mean,
that's right, Stu.
Radios on them, and you want a Chinese to own something right near a military base?
Yeah, it's insane. And I'm happy to say that particular project got stopped in terms of the wind farm. So we're talking about Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio, Texas, where the Air Force trains a large majority of its pilots to become combat certified. And right across the river was a huge tract of land owned by a Chinese businessman who has an active past in the Communist Party. And he's a former officer in the Chinese army. Very wealthy man. He paid a lot of money for that land, more so than he should have, but he owns it now, and he's attempting to do whatever he wants with it. And thankfully, we've got some leadership in the Texas legislature who realized it and helped put a stop to it to make sure that at least that aspect of our infrastructure wasn't vulnerable to foreign actors. Now, this same outfit is got their nose under the tent on other issues, on other resources. And so we're having to play eternal vigilance with them and other actors. Sadly, when the Permian gets distressed and people need to sell, they want to make money off of that sale. And we need to be mindful of folks with large pots of money, i.e. China and Russian oligarchs, coming in and buying those distressed assets. We need to have a more robust conversation about who owns what. And I know that kind of on its instinct might fly in the face of free market, but free market is good until it's not a free market. And when you have an actor, an institutional actor, like the government of China, who uses businesses to their benefit, we need to wake up to that fact. So,
you're talking about something, Matt, that I think is not paid attention to right now. And then let me think, national security, go figure that out. And that I applaud that, because Texas, we have 2.5 million people here. We're a leader in the US in so many ways. People are trying to move in here. Even if you want to call it an invasion or whatever, here we're also having an invasion from New York and California. So we can't be that bad of a place to live.
Are you talking about the legal invasion, Stu, or the illegal invasion?
Both.
Just checking.
That one's illegal, one's legal, and it drives me nuts. I hope they leave their voting policies away from us. On the other hand, when you sit back and think, Matt, you have impact for the entire US, even though you're really focusing on Texas because of the leadership Texas has.
We are looked to as a role model on energy issues. Obviously, Houston being the energy capital of the world. There's so much going on technology and development wise, offshore and onshore. There is also leadership in the United States in terms of rulemaking, policy development. So 25 years ago, we stepped off down a path toward deregulation of our electric utility grid.
Right.
And the benefits have been tremendous in terms of cheaper, affordable, reliable electricity for
Right.
Texas consumers. So we were one of the first to take that step forward. And each and every successive leadership in Texas, in terms of the governor's office, has moved the ball forward. We had our competitive reinvestment energy zones, our CREZ lines, that were built 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
And thank God they were built, because you know what? The phenomenal development of renewables has already filled up those lines. They are congested already. It's oversubscribed, if you will. And so we need to think about expanding our transmission so that we can move that energy from places of less population to areas of need. So one of the things we're working on is transmission. It's a huge challenge, and we have the ability to solve our problems.
Right.
We just have to get out of the way of government in terms of hamstringing the private sector to solving that problem.
Well, ERCOT is getting a black eye sometimes. And I think they've done a heck of a job personally. I think that they're doing things that the other two grid systems in the US are not doing. And I think that does help show that the free market works. And so I'm quite honestly happy about the free market. And do you think that with ERCOT and being a free market will help solve the relationship in the whole energy process, as opposed to the other two grids that are being more just knuckled down into policies?
Great question. I think what you got to have in place is a leadership team that is forward thinking,
right?
That the status quo is not where their vested interest lies, that they've got to be
right
looking for every opportunity to improve what they're doing and bring in and adopt and adjust for new technologies. And so toward that end, just last week, the PUC launched up a pilot project on distributed energy resources to begin the process of adding to kind of our old way of distributing energy and kind of create these new opportunities to move energy around in a different way than what we're normally accustomed to, and to once and for all finally begin the process of demand response potential. So I think I mentioned it earlier. If the price point is high enough, I'm going to go turn down my AC,
right,
and make money. I'm going to wash my clothes at 3 a.m. if it makes financial sense to do so. I'm going to charge my electric car, not that I have one yet, but I'm going to charge my electric car when it's the cheapest.
Right.
And so as you begin to incentivize this behavior, our energy and electricity system will change for the better. Right. And you got to give credit to ERCOT this last week, and we're in the middle of July in 2022 on this podcast. They have done a phenomenal job of managing this particular crisis. And they are experts at their job, but they're not people who don't need oversight or suggestion or encouragement to do the right thing, because sometimes even bureaucrats get way too comfortable in their way of doing things. And so we've just got to adjust. Look, we've grown in population exponentially, Texas has, and nobody could have anticipated or prepared for this. And so as we try and catch up to the electricity demand that all these new residents of Texas have, we've got to figure out different ways to provide energy and electricity. It can't be the same old resource and only that resource. You got to mix it up.
Well, on the grids and nuclear, I think we only have one operating nuke in Texas.
We have we have 4 reactors at 2 facilities. So we have
okay.
Glen Rose up in the kind of the Fort Worth area,
Okay.
and then South Texas down in Matagorda County. And each of those facilities has 2 reactors.
Okay, and they're all running everything.
Well, depends on the day, but yeah, they're all running. And thankfully, they're all running because we do have a tremendous amount of eggs in the nuclear basket.
Oh, absolutely. And what a baseline for the grid. I mean, they are just steady, Eddie. I mean, they pump it out nice. What do you all, I can talk that way since I got a Texas license plate. What are y'all doing for advocating of nuclear as well?
Well, it's funny that you say that. We have been involved with a number of I call them startups, but they're so well funded. It's startups, not the right word. So there are companies like NewScale, and there are companies that Bill Gates is a part of. And there's these kind of tip of the spear nuclear future entities. Nice. And what they're doing, as is the case with most technology, it gets smaller over time, and it makes perfect sense. We don't have those big giant bag cell phones that we used to have. We've got the real tiny thing. And you know what, our TVs, well, actually our TVs are getting bigger, but that's not a good example. But anyway, technology gets smaller and more affordable, like the smartphone. I mean, the computing power, whatever. So there is a movement toward small modular reactors. SMRs is what the term is. And that's where I think this industry is going, and it makes perfect sense. So right now, the reason why we aren't building more nuclear reactors is that it costs $10 billion each, takes 10 years to get a permit. What fool would loan money to a project with such uncertainty? You can't get anybody to back that project.
Right.
So that's why these smaller projects, which are more affordable, can be brought online quicker, make perfect sense. Right now, as we speak, there are pilot projects of small modular reactors going on in the United States. I think there's 1 or 2 in the Tennessee Valley Authority. And then in Boise, Idaho, there's one, I think, that's in test phase. And on the docket with FERC, I think or the NRC, excuse me, I think there's about 10 or 11 more in the test phase. And what we're talking about is the potential. It's huge to put one of these to power like the northern half of Alaska, right? Go put a small modular reactor, looks like a small water tower, to be honest. It's small, it's safe, and it's kind of the wave of the future. So you can have a SMR power a small city or a large city. Right. And the fact that they're affordable and deployable is what's going to make the difference. So we're making progress. It's slow and steady, but it's on the horizon. And of course, China has already done this. So they figured it out a little bit before us and acted on it. And it's one other area that we got to play catch up on.
I'd like to find out more information on what is going on in China. And it just is amazing to me that people think China is our friend. And
I tell you, the only people who think China is our friend are immediate members of the Joe Biden family.
Oh, don't.
Sorry, I don't know if I can go there, but most other people have a healthy
by the way, so it's
observation of China. And Stu, it's also a function of the public just doesn't know. I mean, I read all the clips of espionage, corporate espionage, industrial theft.
Right.
I think the F-35 strike fighter.
Right.
The Chinese stole it and have copied it successfully. And so, we need to have more of a wake-up call for folks figuring out that China is not our friend.
Well, we ought to set something up in the future on something like this, because this is such a huge topic.
I think, talking about the undue influence of China on Texas energy and electricity grid is a fantastic topic for a future discussion.
Unbelievable. And people don't realize that, on a side note on energy and oil and gas in the geopolitical world, China is aligning itself with Russia. And, when we talk about the Iran nuclear deal, who in their right mind is going to think that Russia negotiating that deal? Come on.
Right.
I'm sorry. I went to Oklahoma State, but that is no excuse to allow Russia to come in there and negotiate that. So Russia and China and Saudi Arabia are working together to move the dollar off of oil, and they're going to go to the, Chinese. And so why are they our friends? And why is President Biden over there today visiting with the Saudis when he's practicing a fist bump? Matt, this just drives me nuts. So he won't take a photo of him shaking anybody's hand in Saudi Arabia. That's pathetic.
Well, Stu, I hope you got your blood pressure monitor on, because I don't want you to get stoked up by how much it's infuriating. So take your pills, and, take a deep breath, because it is infuriating.
It is.
We could spend about 15 podcasts on the short-sightedness of our energy policy as it relates to this administration. The things that we have canceled, the things that we have not allowed, the things that we have done with our strategic petroleum reserve are unbelievable. And so, it's just unfathomable to deal with that. And so, I wanted to circle back to, you talked about China. China's got this thing called I think they call it Road and Belts Initiative, Road and Belts. And they put a little seed money into various geographies all over the globe. Like, they are the largest investor in the continent of Africa. They're building airports, railroads, transmission infrastructure, you name a telephone system technology. And they've got their hooks into these small to medium-sized emerging democracies, or flat out dictatorships. And they gradually roll them up into the Chinese influence and exert tremendous control, exploit natural resources. And it's not a healthy relationship. And we've just really got to put a stop to that encroachment.
That is one. Thank you for bringing that up. When you take a look at I was on a podcast yesterday with Gregory Wrightstone, and I did not realize that the deforestation of the rainforest was actually because of China digging up rare earth minerals in there for that very same reason. So I thought it was because, they're burning it down for farming. No, it's China's in there digging for rare earth minerals.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a different mindset. And, they look every day for a way to take opportunity and advantage and kind of move forward over the United States. And we've been asleep at the switch, and we've got to wake up.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to a future discussion on that, Matt. And Matt, I am so glad that you stopped by this podcast. How can people get a hold of you, and what are things that you need from people?
Well, I'll tell you, Stu, one thing they can do is go to our website. It's actually a long one, but if you type it out correctly, it'll work. So it's www.conservativetexansforenergyinnovation.org. There's a way to sign up for our newsletters. There is a news roster of late breaking developments. We are coming into a legislative arena in January, a time period. For your folks and listeners who aren't from Texas, we meet every other year for 140 days. So it's very hectic in order to get something done. And so we're going to be playing offense and defense in the upcoming session of the legislature and moving the ball forward on some stuff that makes it easier for consumers to make money, to make price more affordable and reliable, and kind of playing defense against the big monopolies that are not looking out for everyone.
Well, thank you, Matt. And I tell you, I had so much fun, and I am really looking forward to our discussion on China. That is going to be fabulous.
Thank you, Stu. I am too. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.